You're live on both. Good to go.
Okay, well, good afternoon. Welcome to the second meeting of the Board of Trustees for the year 2021, January 19th. It's a little after 3:30 in the afternoon, so we are all on time and present. With that, we will bring the meeting to order. We don't have any singers today, right, Kev? No, okay.
No singers on this
So we
meeting.
Okay.
We're culling talent. We've actually had people ask to come again. I said, no, that's next year.
First action item is to approve the minutes of the meeting from January 4th. And in review, I had no corrections or additions. Are there any from the board members present here?
No.
Okay. We have our work with Mr. Bob Foxon of GlobalCom on the repurposing and the repowering of our power plant. He has delivered to us phase 1 and phase 2. Bruce and I are doing some work with Bob on some other initiatives that we'll talk about under Bruce's report. But it's time to enter into the phase 3. This phase of the repowering study calls for us to be contacting LIPA, initiating a meeting with LIPA, talking about their figures for their forecasts for power, trying to get an idea of where they're going, what's the future of our power plant, and coming back to the table with a final deliverable, which would be the plan for the repurposing of our power plant. So in order for us to be ahead of certain decisions in the timeline and in the pipeline, it's important that we get this work going. I know that we're in a budget situation, but the future of our power plant is vital to the future of this village. So both Bruce and I are recommending that it's time at this point to enter into phase 3 of that work. I think the proposal was provided by Barbara Sakovich, and on the inception of the work this year, we decided to break it into 3 phases to make sure the work was not only appropriate and timely, but done in good stead. The next initiative is extremely important as well. This is the Conifer project, which is the cornerstone project to the revitalization of Upper Port Jefferson. I have been working with Allison LaPointe in the Building and Planning Department and her staff, Mr. Egan, of course, and Mr. Bob Brown, who is our consultant, who is tasked with engineering and designing Station Street. This resolution gives me the authority to enter into a developers agreement, which talks about the responsibilities between the Village of Port Jefferson and Conifer in the development of Station Street, and provides for certain easement agreements so that they can install the utilities underneath that road, give them access to that, and also hook up their electric box on Oakland and bring the electric power supply across the Perry Street parking lot. It's complicated. Initially, that power from PSE&G was going to come off of Main Street, but the box needed to be situated on the Long Island Railroad property. They denied that, so it sent us back to the drawing board about 6 weeks ago, but we resolved that. This agreement is one of the last 2 items needed for their building permit to be issued pursuant to the site plan review and conditional approval. The demolition permit will be rolled into that building permit. The only other item that we're waiting on is approval from Suffolk County Department of Health. That, of course, is for sewer hookups. So this is a huge milestone for the Village of Port Jefferson. I want to thank Brian Egan for his hard work on this with the Conifer Council and their team, and Mr. Bob Brown, our consultant, and our building and planning staff. They've done an exceptional job. This was an extremely complicated project involving just about every municipal partner you can imagine. And it's been a very, very heavy lift in conjunction with the village's grant from Restore New York. Thank you for their money to install Station Street. This will be a cornerstone project to help revitalize Upper Port and hopefully shovel in the ground and a demolition of a building by early spring. A final copy of the resolution will be forthcoming from Mr. Egan. He and the council from Conifer are putting the final T's and I's on the document. Do you have any questions or comments on that? Number four, I think we've had a lot of conversation about the village code as it currently exists and how it reads to allow carters to do business in our village. We do not prevent any one carter or anybody from being able to acquire a license to provide a carting service in this village. They merely have to fill out a form, as do the taxi cabs who we license and other types of licenses that the village issues. The license application has to be presented to us before the new year. And on that application, it discloses fees, et cetera, et cetera. In the past, our clerk's office has just rubber stamped the license. And last year, when a lot of conversation happened with respect to Maggios and their price increases, we felt it was important to bring this license to the boards, to the level of the board, to get the board discussion and input. And I just want to also say, since that time last year, myself and the new administrator, Joe Palumbo, Brian Egan, have met with the town of Brookhaven and the staff that are responsible for managing, the town's refuse removal. And we've gotten numbers from them, and we told them that we are ready, willing, and able to enter into an agreement to fold into having the town provide that service for our community. But the town has come back and said they are not prepared to roll us in at this time. I think it's largely could be because of the status of the landfill or their uncertainty of the ash, fill or the landfill or what's happening at the town. But Brian, I'm going to ask you to weigh in on this a little bit because I know this is a controversial topic, and just to confirm that for the record.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary, Mayor. It's Joe Palumbo and I have had discussions with and you have had discussions with the Commissioner of Waste Management in the town. Municipal waste management is one of the most complicated questions that are going to face any municipality on Long Island, and it's only going to get worse when the Brookhaven town landfill closes, which is pending to do within the next 5 years. So it's going to be a complicated question. It's trucking, it's rail spurs, I think every municipality in Long Island is scrambling for what the garbage solution is going to be. But we intend to continue those conversations with the town when the new town council person is selected in March 2021. We intend to, as soon as they get elected, to engage them vigorously in trying to find a solution to this that will involve having the town potentially take over our carting.
So Brian, is there anything more that we can be doing with our current code as it exists to either encourage people carters that I would say to, come to the village and provide services? Or, a former trustee had talked a lot about creating a garbage district, which obviously that trustee has now retired with no result there.
So garbage districts are very complicated, but I know we've seen the correspondence that's been exchanged amongst the board. And just to give a summary of kind of Chapter 151, there's no impediment to any carter coming in. And I encourage any carter who's listening to this program, sign up and come in and get contract, sign up property owners. We encourage everybody to sign up. It's not, as everyone knows who's a homeowner or a business owner in the village of Port Jefferson, it's not a regulated utility. We don't select the carters. We don't select the rates. It is purely a matter of private contract. So as of right now, if anyone has a cousin, an uncle, a friend, or anyone else who wants to pick up routes in the village of Port Jefferson and they think that it's efficient for them to do it, please do so. But we've had a dearth. We started out with many. We now have a dearth of carters who were able to service the village. And again, it's a matter of private contract, as they said it. No one is compelled to use that carter, but the only compulsion is that they do have to provide for alternative removal of their rubbish.
I saw a lot of emails going back and forth between the board members. Does anybody else want to make a comment here for the record?
I'll make my comment now instead of on my agenda item, just to say, as a freshman trustee, this is something I just wanted to learn about. Seeing that in speaking to both neighbors and being on social media, this is something, and just being as a resident of 7 years here, this isn't something that it keeps coming up over and over again. And so I'm a code nerd as well. And so I did my best not to get on my fellow board members' nerves and pushing to find out information.
That's okay.
And had great discussions, with our attorney Brian Egan, Rich Harris, really appreciated learning about this. And together we can now really truly say we're doing absolutely everything as a village government to the code. We will be having, every time there is a rate increase, the code says that that we cannot do anything about that rate increase. That is not our business as a village government. Just like if if a restaurant increases their rates on pasta or whatever it is, that's nothing to do with our village government. It's just we give the license for them, but we as a village government announce that we are reissuing the license and this is the new rate, and that ends up on our agenda item. So you as residents, this is a private contract between you and the carding company. So like Attorney Egan said, you have that opportunity to organize yourselves, as I've seen being done on social media, to gather and say, we do have 250 residents who are interested in the contract. Push new carders to give you an estimate and see if it's a thing that they will be willing to do. I know in other discussions, the village of Patchogue did create a district, and I believe that figure they were paying something around $700 a year for their village pickup, and so that's much more than we're paying currently. And so it's not to say that we're not exploring all these options, but as we explore, some of them aren't as rosy as they seem. So I'm really happy to say that we're doing everything we can as a village government, being as transparent for you as possible, and just encouraging that you organize yourselves if you're not happy with your carding service, and we're here to do what we do and make sure the carding services that come in are operating as up to snuff.
Yeah, hi, Bruce.
I just wanted to get an apples to apples comparison. Do we know what Brookhaven Town pays for garbage service? We know the prices are going up. They're telling us it's because COVID and everybody stays home and creates more garbage. I don't know. That's a good one. But just want to know what the comparison is. Are we paying a lot? Are we not paying a lot? Rebecca has done some comparison, and it doesn't seem unfavorable.
Yeah, Joe, in our conversation with the town, did they supply a per residence rate for garbage? I don't think they did. I don't recall if they did that.
They did not identify what the cost would be for the village to join their garbage district. It was based off of tonnage, as I recall. So we did provide them with the actual tonnage that we generate here in the village, so they could come up with their calculations for us. But since that time, we have not heard any calculations. They did say that they were not going to revisit a shared services agreement with the village or with our village or any other village until this calendar year. And for the record, I did send an email over to the town of Brookhaven last week, asking them or telling them that we are still interested in possibly joining the town and their garbage district, provided the economics made sense for us. And, we are open for discussions at any time.
I have that figure. I have a figure from a Brookhaven resident's single family tax bill. It's $365 per year, which is lovely, but it doesn't seem to be an option. I know that the staff here has been working really hard to try to make it an option, and it sounds like we'll continue to. But just for comparison, and I know in our discussions as well, it depends too on it's a number of residents issue. As far as the volume of what these carding companies are dealing with. So that it's not to say that would be our same figure here in Port Jefferson. I'm not sure.
So, I think sometimes it's always also a matter of competition. Competition always helps drive price or make a more, competitive price, let's just say. So, I think that there are many factors that are, converging into this issue. It would be really good to hear from the town, and perhaps, Joe, we can put something on letterhead and send it over to them to just, further advance that request. Because there's usually also in scales of economy, there's better pricing as well. But there's just downtown here in the commercial business district. I know that if you have a dumpster, you can go out and you can enter into a contract with a number of the carters that are licensed here in the village of Port Jefferson for dumpster service. But you will be signing a 3-year or 4-year or 5-year even contract with them. So, sometimes, you got to be careful what you wish for if you're entering into a long-term contract. There could be price escalation involved in there as well. But the entire business of refuse, as Brian mentioned, worldwide is becoming probably one of the next regional monumental issues. And here, when we live on an island, there's only one way that garbage is getting off this island. And when I addressed this issue with Maggio's about 2 years ago, they had told me that the federal trucking industry had received new regulations that truckers have to take a truck stop every 4 hours, and so that adds cost to the trucking. And a lot of our garbage was going to Ohio. It doesn't go to the landfill. So getting the garbage to Ohio, it's a big, huge issue. It's not just a matter of picking it up from your house and, putting it into the truck. There's a whole bunch of things that go into it. So does anybody else have a comment?
Yes.
Dan, and then Kathy Ann?
Well, apparently there is a difference in the rates within the town of Brookhaven, because we have friends who pay $480 a year for their refuse pickup. So depending on where you live in the town of Brookhaven.
Because I think they're treating each hamlet as its own district. So it could be the cost of getting it, transportation to and fro. Kathy Ann?
Yeah, could someone address, I've gotten the question of why doesn't the village just purchase their own truck and do it themselves? Can somebody address the cost? I know it's astronomical.
I think going back to, and this, Brian, Egan, if you could pick this up, we had been speaking about Patchogue had done that. And again, the cost, I believe, was around $700 a year.
Yeah, it's a shade under 700, but yeah, that, I think historically, like, how did we get here? Like, I remember in our tenures here on the board, there were other competitors that were out there in different areas, north side, east side, west side. And, the village of Patchogue was founded in 1893. So they always treated, when everybody else buried their garbage in their backyard, right? Late 19th century. Then they decided that was a bad idea and we should probably start trucking it. And the village assumed it as a municipal service. The village of Port Jefferson was founded in 1965. And again, this is kind of just my supposition, but they thought, we'll let competition do this. Government doesn't work as well as private industry. Let's have private industry run it. So they had all the carters that were around. And one time there were multiple carters, maybe half a dozen carters that were servicing the village. And then through either attrition or otherwise, they start to wind down. And then we're stuck in the situation kind of we're in. But again, it's kind of like out of the frying pan into the fire. If we were going to do municipal service, we'd have to buy the trucks that generally run between $300,000 to $600,000 a piece. We need multiple trucks. You'd have to have employees. As everyone knows, municipal employees aren't free. They work very hard, but they come with high salaries. They come with benefits. They come with healthcare. They come with retirement. They come with all those extra costs that then would be directly attributed to the homeowner. So I don't necessarily think we could run those scenarios, but I think that would not be economically feasible in comparison to what service gets provided by a private entity.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. And don't forget, I think it was about 18 months ago when the contract that the town had with their carter for a certain area, and I think it impacted Port Jeff Station and around certain areas of maybe Selden, that carter walked away from that contract because they could not provide the services anymore. And again, that speaks to the changes in the industry that happened in the last couple of years. You know, you know, so I don't think it's an easy business anymore. And I think that that's part of the impact that we're feeling. But in order to run those numbers, Joe, how many taxable parcels are there? The number in the village? Any idea?
About 3,000,
That's what I thought.
give or
Okay.
take.
Okay. Yeah, you're looking at about $1.4 million. I'm sorry, if we looked at the average cost for a household, and I know just the trucks alone are probably up to 350,000, knowing how much we paid for a dump truck.
Yep, no, they're expensive.
All right, food for thought. Thank you for everybody's input, and you know, this I think is sending a strong message to Maggios as well. Try and keep your costs under control. The village is not altogether happy with you for raising your fees. Everybody's struggling in the year of pandemic, so keep that in mind. Let's see here. Number 5. This is a great resolution having to do with helping our seniors. Joe, do you want to expand on this one a little bit? Did you work with Paul on this, or?
I did not work directly with him. This was something that came out of the governor's executive order, as I understand it, that the exemptions for seniors would continue through 2021 in terms of their assessed value and their senior exemption on their taxes. You know, there's no disputing the executive order. This is, you know, kind of a formality for us here to accept, and I think it provides for a very good thing for our seniors in the village.
And so basically, there's no need for the seniors to reapply for that exemption. The exemption that they filed with us last year in 2020 will stick. There's no need for them to come out of their houses and reapply. We're holding that exemption over this year. So
Correct.
That's a newsworthy, something newsworthy to report to our seniors.
Right. We were ahead of the game. We had sent out the updated letters in advance of the executive order. So, you know, we received some and others we did not, but we're just going to carry those that we had from last year into this year.
Good. Okay. Also, number 6 is good news. We have a new golf carts coming to the course. Stan, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, this is practically a no-brainer because we're getting the exact same fleet, except right now we have 10 old machines and 64 new machines. When we upgrade, they're all going to be the brand new machines for the same price. So it's a no-brainer.
Good. I had put in a special request. I don't know if you can share this with Brian. I thought maybe if we could get a 4-seater cart for when we take tours on the course. It's hard to do that when you have a 2-seater and then the other carts behind you. So maybe a 4-seater for giving new membership tours. If you want to take somebody else on a ride for the golf course through the golf course, it's nice to maybe have a 4-seater.
Okay.
Just a mayor's wish list thing. Next 2 items, 7 and 8, are change orders impacting the Barnum lot. Good change orders. We are installing an electric charging station, and I guess we need 2. I guess they're called concrete curb stoppers.
Right. So
that one, yeah.
7 is actually to run the wiring equipment and outlet, so we can install a camera for surveillance at the parking lot. And 8 is to install 2 curb stops to protect the EV charger equipment from cars crashing into them. This was the most economical approach. I believe to install 1 bollard was around the same price. So in this case, we were able to install 2 curb stops in 2 parking spaces to protect that EV charger.
Okay, great. And Kathy, are you reporting in your board meeting on your report? If not, we are waiting for the spring for this lot to open. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's, yes.
I'm sorry, for the Barnum lot.
Yeah, we're
Spring.
going to wait for the spring for the lot to open, and we're nearly completed, correct?
Yes, there was discussion within the parking committee, even though it's not fully finished, the spots are there and it's functional, but the overall agreement, majority of the agreed to wait till spring to open it fully, as opposed to opening it now, but leaving some blocked off or whatever it might be. Wait till it's all done. There's no huge need for it now anyway. Our parking is not overwhelmed at this time of year. So that was the agreement moving forward.
Right.
Okay, and
we-
also, I know we have Kevin on the line, but are we done with planting? Is the planting all in, or?
No, we're not. So we
Right,
have
okay.
some punch list items that we'll be going through with our engineer D&B and F&F, the contractor. Unfortunately, with fabrication, with all materials, due to COVID, we're still behind on the block wall, the block retaining wall. Once that comes in, they'll be able to finish the block retaining wall, install the rest of the fencing, and install the guardrail. Once all of that is done, they'll be able to complete the grading on the northern bioswale, and then we'll have to see how we go with planting. I know we're very late in the season. We're in the winter, and planting is very difficult to do at this time. So the planting may have to wait until the spring, but the expectation is that this lot will be done, provided we get the block retaining wall material in before the opening.
Okay, good. And it's already January 19th, so come on, winter, keep moving quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Number 9 is a great news. Really proud of our treasurer. Denise, you want to speak on number 9, please?
Sure. We're going to be holding a tax sale in March. It's to allow the village to collect on unpaid taxes. So where we have right now, it's 156,000, over 156. So we're gonna send the letters to the residents that are still outstanding, and then we're gonna advertise the tax sale, and whoever's interested comes in and can bid on them.
All right, so basically we're not out of pocket, then that tax revenue goes over to this investor by law. This is all full disclosure, and helps us keep our budget to a point where we're not in a hole for 156,000 on the tax side of the equation. Some of these are this year's, and some of these are also years past, correct?
Yeah, we've never done it before.
Just point of clarification. So a tax sale, people would be coming in and bidding on the properties?
Yes. Well, on the tax, on the lien, we'll have a lien on their properties.
The overdue taxes.
On the overdue tax.
Yeah.
So if you owe, for instance, if you owe $800 into village in taxes, you haven't paid, they'll sell that lien. The person buys it for its face value, and then when the taxes are paid, they make their money on the interest.
Yeah,
it's
it's 1% interest a month, so it's higher than what people would get. So it's a good investment for people.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good job. The warrants as presented, I think we just got the signed letter from our internal auditor, Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Was sent by Michelle at about 3:33 p.m. I will review the warrants, and if I have any questions, Denise, they came middle of the day, so I'll go over them with you guys.
Sure.
The capital for 81 grand, is that largely, what is that?
Let me. Capital.
And Barbara, you just have to add the capital summary, the summary of the warrants into the agenda, right?
It's mostly Barnum and then retaining wall.
I did. I resent
Okay.
a new one closer to 3:30.
Okay, all right, thank you. Didn't see it in mine.
Yeah, 60,000 of that is Barnum,
Okay,
and then the retaining wall at the beach.
great. Okay, so I think I don't believe we're gonna have any other additions to the resolution list this afternoon, so is there a motion to approve 1 through 10? Moved by Trustee Snaden and seconded by Stan Laux. Trustee Laux, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good job. COVID updates, guys. The good news is we're not going backwards. Numbers are floating around 10. I saw a couple of the figures come in even under 8. So hopefully that holiday bubble is moving behind us and we are moving forward. There was a lot of confusion and a lot of questions about where can we get the vaccinations and a whole fluffle with the State University location that impacted a lot of residents here. But I hopefully in the next few weeks, you'll see new vaccination sites and a new flow of vaccines available. The good news is that that flow is happening. We did post the information on our website. We're trying as hard as we can to get you that information to help make appointments, but there is, as with anything on the massive rollout of that, this is a lot of confusion. I think the schools, Kathy Ann, the kids back in school this week?
Yeah, today was the first day everybody was back.
That's
very, very good and interesting because it was the first day that all morning I kept saying, all right, now who's in the house? Who needs lunch at what time? And I was free. There, yay. And they were so ready. They need to be in school. And, I could just, I can just see them sitting in front of a computer all day in their rooms every day. That's not where kids need to be. So
right.
That they are back, and let's cross our fingers that it all went well, and we can continue.
Yep. So that's the good news. Does anybody want to add to anything that I may have missed? Any important updates from the governor's office? I think we're good, right? Okay. Conifer, I think I gave a good update before. The Conifer organization is looking to close on the purchase of the property at the end of this month with permits in hand. That'll be fantastic news for us. They are also, I am told, in negotiations with some of the other property owners in Upper Port. So those conversations are ongoing. I think once they understand the dynamics here and they have their unit pricing and the cost of materials and everything down, it makes it a little bit easier for them to see whether or not another investment is worth their while. So hopefully the marketplace will be robust and developers will continue to look at Uptown as an attractive opportunity. So we look forward to the issuance of that building permit, and I'm looking forward to another bulldozer party, quite frankly. Beaches, Stan, thank you for sending me that video. We'll get more information. I think is the beach open? I know a lot of people are gaining access to the beach,
No,
but
it's not open. People have been moving the barricades.
Moving the barricades down there.
They move the barricade, they go down to the beach. I was down there yesterday. There were people down there. When they come out, they put the barricade back, most of them.
Is there heavy work still ongoing? I mean, I think that they're nearly completed with this project.
I think they are totally completed. I think it's just a matter of getting their staging and everything out of there.
Right, and the cleanup.
Right.
And the cleanup.
Okay. So the renourishment project looks fantastic. We just hope that Mother Nature is kind and keeps the sand west of Mount Sinai. Bruce?
I was just asking, the barricade breakers, are they at least Port Jeff residents, do we know, or?
Oh, I don't know.
Never mind.
No, it's hard to know because the beach is officially closed for this work to be done. So I thought revisit making sure the gate's actually locked. What else do we have here? Retaining wall projects, Joe, I think we went out to bid. Is that correct?
We did. The bids are due back February 4th. We received a very large interest in this project. I think we're at 16 or 18 contractors that have picked up bid packages. So, look forward to receiving those and opening them up and seeing what we have in store for us.
All right. So the goal is for us to also, during this downtime, to be able to repair that retaining wall on the easterly side of the East Beach roadway going down the hill, and also the Highlands Boulevard retaining wall.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Is the beach one a repair or is it a complete rebuild?
It's a complete rebuild.
Yeah, it's the wood retaining wall is completely rotted, and we are just very fortunate that wall hasn't failed already.
And just while we're on the topic of beaches, the West Beach, I haven't been down there this week to see, but I go down pretty much every week. This concrete staircase down, that's been barricaded off because there's a big drop down of, is there a plan in place to get sand back in there?
I can't answer that question right now, Rebecca, because you're the first one to bring it to my attention. That's okay. Sometimes Mother Nature does that. Sometimes, we are permitted to build back up the sand to the bottom of that step there.
Very good. Just checking.
Right. So in those cases, even with the ramp going down over at East Beach, our Parks Department, when the sand is eroded from those locations, they come back and they try and refill that area to create a level surface for people to get access to the beach. Then obviously, if Mother Nature does not bring sand back to that area, our Parks Department will be down there to to backfill and make sure that access is necessary once the beach season starts.
Absolutely, yeah. There's still access by the regular stair step, and I know this winter it seems to be particularly brutal on the beaches.
Right. We were hopeful that we were going to get a little bit more sand out of the project at East Beach. It just didn't carry that far, unfortunately. So we'll have to
a lot of sand, so I'm not complaining.
I have to add, we have to be very careful about doing that because technically permits are required to go down there on that beach.
I wanted to ask, we got clearance from DEC to install the wall at the base of the roadway in the parking lot, correct?
Yes.
To put in a small concrete
Yes.
header wall, correct?
Well,
Joe?
we received initial approval from DEC, and DEC was sending it to their permitting department. So we don't have permits in hand, but I believe we will be getting permits for the revised plans that we did submit to them.
Okay. And likewise, I think all our paperwork has been submitted for the DEC after there was back and forth with the Army Corps and another agency on the main project, which is the bluff restoration and stabilization. So,
right.
And
Stan, just to your point, you are correct about the DEC. And I believe that's just related to bringing equipment down onto the beach. So we try to avoid doing that, and we bring the labor and shovels to backfill any sand.
Yeah, pretty much they allow us to move what's there.
Right.
But they're a little bit tricky about bringing new stuff in.
Right.
Oh yeah.
That's what I meant
new
by
sand
backfill.
is a completely
Correct.
Yeah, new sand is a completely different topic. Trustee Deputy Mayor Laux, your report.
Yeah, I'll talk about that first item there. That relates to Centennial Park. You should have a diagram in front of you there. What I would like to do is to take that large section of those long skulls, I guess that's what they call them, that are on this side of the stone wall, and move them to the other side of the stone wall. We're going to be rebuilding those village racks. They will be moved closer to the parking lot so that we're not taking up any more space heading out on the beach. We will be taking a little bit of brush towards the bluff in order to fit that new location, so that now on this side of the stone wall, everything would be village. It's a walkway, the gazebo is there, the picnic area is there. It opens up this entire side. We have had complaints about this because what's been happening is the rowing club, obviously, they take their equipment, they put it all over our picnic tables. Now they're going to the other side. Everything that they own is over there now, and if we move those over there, we're done with it.
Also, Stan, I think that there's oh, that's the rowing club. I'm sorry, I was mixing up the two. Yeah, is this the same club that's up in the marina parking lot now?
They're up. They've got that ugly looking tent up in the yacht club parking lot. That's the same club.
Right, so they're rowing on the stationary machines now there, and this is where they come down and put the actual boats in
Right.
the water. Okay,
Correct.
okay.
Are you taking comment on this, Stan?
Yes.
I think it's a great idea. My one concern, just looking at the vicinity to the bluff and responding to the removal of vegetation, is that I would suggest to maybe, I'd be happy to go down there with you and look at the exact measuring out and location to maybe put a little berm either before and or after, or rather, I think north and or south, so that we don't start to cause erosion of the bluff, because that vegetation is very important to retaining the sand and not starting to have that bluff start slipping down.
Skylar.
Even though it doesn't seem,
No, it's, you would have to look at it because we are, this is not to scale by any means. We are quite a ways away from that bluff. with
okay.
all- I mean, it's-
I would love to go down and just take a look at,
Yeah,
yeah, if we can schedule that. But
sure,
otherwise, I think it's a great idea.
sure.
Yeah, Rebecca, I don't believe there's a very large area of vegetation that is going to be removed to accommodate the larger kayaks there.
I agree with you. I'm just a cautionary woman. And so, like,
No, and actually, guys, take full advantage of the fact that we have a educated environmentalist on our board here. So anytime she can weigh in on all this stuff, it's fantastic. So
Absolutely.
Just give me a buzz, Rebecca, and I'll be down
absolutely. I just miss you, Stan. I just want to see you.
there. Okay,
Stan, I just
Um,
want to jump in.
alright.
I think it's a great idea to move it away from that location. I'm looking at it over here. The way it was before took up not only access, but also the nice view. I know a lot of people take coffee, lunch, sit in their cars and want to see the water as they sit in the parking lot, and those boats and picnic tables and tents were right there. So I think it's a great idea, and there's plenty of room over there. I think it works, whether it be adjusted a little bit here, left or right, according to the bluff or whatever we need environmentally, but to get it out of that front and center location, I think is key. So
Okay,
I'm all on board with that.
yeah. Also, we're building a couple additional racks. Is that correct?
well, yeah, that's in the rest of my report.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's
Stan.
not that beach.
Those, as far as that beach is concerned, we will have the same number of rack spaces. We're just rebuilding them and we're moving them closer to the parking lot to make room for those skulls at the end. So we're not really taking up any more room down the beach. Everything will be shoved a little bit more towards the parking lot. We're not increasing the number of racks at that area. We are,
Okay.
we are building 18 new racks over at Crystal Brook. We will have a total of 140 spaces when we're done for racks for village residents, for their kayaks, canoes, and other vessels, which I think is fantastic. We had a waiting list last year. The money that comes out of our $25 fee is adequate to pay for these new racks. I want to remind everyone that we do a lottery every March, I believe the first week in March. Residents with vessels, it's probably time to get down and make an application to get into that lottery. As I said, we do have a waiting list, and hopefully we can continue to build some racks so we don't have to worry about that. The applications for the summer camps are ready to go out. These are camp jobs for the summer. They fill in quickly, so if you have any children who are interested in working in our camps or at our beaches this summer, get down to Village Center and make out your applications. The tennis programs, same thing there. The adult softball league is ready to go on April 1st. If you're going to put a team in, get down there, put your team in. What else do we got here? Margot talked about the East Beach. You've got to get down there and look at that if you haven't seen it. It's actually a beach. I call it a miracle. It came back. It was gone for quite a while. Up at the country club, both golf and tennis, obviously, they're closed. We do have opening dates. Golf is going to open on April 1st. Tennis will open on April 15th. I have to remind all of the members that the price for membership does go up on February 1st. There will be an extra $100. So you want to get down here and get your membership in if you can. The dining room and the bar across the street at the club, they're still open. They'll be open all winter. They're serving dinners Wednesday through Sunday. From the village center, skating at the rinks is operating with limited capacity. However, every session they run is full. So if you want to skate, I recommend that you make advanced reservations. On the second floor, the North Shore Art Guild is presently having a show titled The Reawakening. This is a show that is a tribute to the courage, strength, and heart of the artist and society that we must overcome to survive tough situations and become stronger. And that's a kind of an apropos for this situation we're in right now. The last thing I have, the farmer's market, still operating every Sunday from 9 to 2 up on the second floor at the recreation department. And I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
Dan, I have a question.
Mhm.
The applications for the lottery for the kayaks, I get bombarded with those questions usually after the fact when it's too late. Where can people go to get the application and how early? I think you mentioned they can start doing that now, but how does that happen?
Barbara could answer that question.
It's not on, the application will be on, it's on portjeff.com under forms, or they can call or email myself. The kayak season begins April 1st. We choose the, the lottery March 1st.
March
So-
1st.
So the applications usually by February 1st are up on the website for 2021.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what we'll do is we'll put together, a little announcement officially, pointing people to the website that the applications are up and ready. Similarly, Kathy, I'm sure you're going to be reporting on how people can get their parking stickers as well this year, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's move on to Trustee Miller.
All right, greetings. On the 8th of January, I attended a Zoom with the Long Island Metro Business Action Association. They present speakers from the Long Island area that would be of interest to business and community as well as villages. And the recent speaker was Senator James Gauguin State Senator of the North Shore area, Huntington primarily and a bit east. What I was able to do is bring up the issue of electrification, which it turns out he is interested in. Electrification of the Long Island Railroad spur. And I am going to be following up with that with the Sierra Club director, Jessica Ensman, on a Zoom next week. Again, a long shot, but we know from history that at the beginning of administrations that have mass transit as a priority, you often see an opening that closes very quickly for capital funding. We know the budget for the MTA, Long Island Railroad, is very stressed, but by the same token, there may be relief from the federal government on that as well, but that's a whole different thing. Margot mentioned it earlier. We've approved the contract for Robert Foxon. We need to contact LIPA. We need to gently question their statistics. They're showing declining energy use, and we just need to know where they get this figure. At some level, maybe possibly we've put in as many bulbs as we can on Long Island in houses. Port Jefferson looking for LEDs on the streets, but a decline in electrical energy use, we think, needs to be justified. We're also looking at the fact that many car manufacturers are committing to electrical vehicles in the very near future, and I don't understand how that doesn't come along with increased use of electrical energy. We're also working with Mr. Fox in regards to infrastructure hardening. This is something we had tried to get a large grant in the past, large meaning $10 million. We would be looking for something $5 to $10 million. There is a selection process, so we need to, and we will be sending a letter of intent that Port Jefferson would like to provide, get funding to provide hardened infrastructure. We're talking about maybe talking with LIPA on this. We don't want to be in conflict with them, and so that's a possibility. This is something we've done before. We're looking at variations. We're including possibly solar over parking lots. Margot, I don't know if you wanted to add to this. These are the kind of discussions, maybe batteries and things like that, that we would be talking about.
Yeah, so we were in our work with Mr. Fox, and he brought to our attention that state emergency management has money available to help harden the grid, provide communities specifically with opportunities when the power goes down, where some of their major resources stay online. So we had done a lot of this study and gathering of the data when we applied for the microgrid grant. So the benefit is that we have all of this information now, and it will be part of what we bring to LIPA. For instance, there's we had this storm Isaiah. I know that we had power outages in this community, but they were not power outages that perhaps sustained for days long, such as we suffered through Irene and Sandy. And because there has been a lot of hardening of the grid, creating switches so that they can realign the circuits. So, for instance, our hospitals can stay online. So there's a bunch of money. We're doing what we need to do to always keep this community in the forefront of those conversations, to add credibility to the village as far as being a team player and doing everything that we can do as a community to be responsible in our power usage, keeping our hospitals online, keeping our school districts up, and the fire department up and running. So the grant will be hardening of the grid with switches, perhaps applying for some battery backup so that the fire department doesn't go under. They can keep their power going, as an example, and also creating maybe a solar opportunity with putting solar panels over a parking lot. So we're submitting this letter of intent at no cost to the village. The engineers that are going to be working for us, they would then get paid out of grant administration if it is awarded to us. But it's another reason to get us in front of LIPA and to show that we're a good working partner. So, yep, and another conversation and another project.
And let me just follow up on the DPS. The Department of Public Service is taking input on Tropical Storm Isaiah. There was substantial power failure. There are recriminations from that. LIPA and Port PSEG are pointing fingers at one another. The governor's not happy. They're taking input on this. And I know I want to compliment Margot. She has provided input, which is helpful to the learning process of DPS, but hopefully to Port Jefferson as well. I wanted to make a side comment here. The governor has a REV plan, REV, and it has to do with a green and distributed energy electrical economy. Part of this, as I said, is distributed energy, where you don't put all your eggs in one basket. We have cables coming in from Connecticut and from New Jersey. For an entire summer, a cable went out for New Jersey, depriving us of a lot of electrical energy. And another cable went out and is, I think, still out, coming from Connecticut. Some of these cable failures over the years were actually caused by boat anchors, if you can believe that. And in an era where we're looking at, possible people with malintent, whoever they may be, it just seems that distributed energy is an important concept. And I'm wondering if I or you or somebody from Port Jefferson just write a quick note for that hearing regarding distributed energy, because it is in the REV plan, but I have never heard it discussed off paper. I think that's, remind them that this is the governor's priority.
You're muted.
Sorry, I said thank you, Bruce, and thank you, Lorraine, and Trustee Sneed.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We have been having ongoing discussions with Code and Suffolk Police Department to combat any bike issues that may arise this upcoming season. We dealt with it last season, and we just are, planning on staying on top of that issue, utilizing the code that we put in place to combat the problems that may arise. We are continuing discussions also with our code attorney with outdoor dining and what we're going to do moving forward in the season. We're getting ideas. We have plans to walk the village, speak to each individual business owner to find out what it is, would best help them in the upcoming season, as well as, keeping in mind that we are in a transition now moving into the season, and hopefully that, COVID restrictions start to lessen, fingers crossed. Zombie home report is that things are going well for the village. We meet regularly. The houses that are issues are being toured, and we are on top of that. And again, I ask the public to, when you see something, please let us know, and we will send somebody out immediately to inspect and take care of any issues.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? So specifically, the zombie house or the rental problem house on Christopher Collar Road, that situation has been resolved.
It's been resolved we couldn't have had it a better resolution. The property has been sold, purchased by a family who is in the process of fixing up the home, remediating any issues that are there, working very closely with Village Hall, and hand in hand, making sure that everything is done to code and in compliance with zoning and with code. So we're very to see that the neighbors are thrilled to see a family moving in there. I heard neighbors went over and brought goodies over the holidays to welcome them to the neighborhood. And it's been, like I said, I couldn't have written it any better. It's exactly the happy ending that we wanted. So I'm thrilled. Thank you to Rick Harris and our department for making that happen.
Somebody's got a dog, I think
It's mine.
Oh, okay. All right. So she's happy when you talk, right?
Yeah.
The house on Harbor Hills Drive continues to be held by Wells Fargo. They check in on the house, but they're not ready to put that house on the market at this point in time. They're still in their foreclosure process.
Right.
And the house on the Upper Sheep Pasture, major headway. Rich Harris, who, by the way, has been helping us make major progress on all of these problem properties. He's currently negotiating a deed in lieu with the owner to just turn the house over. We know that the State Preservation Society is working on that to get money to preserve that property as apparently one of, if not the oldest structures in the town of Brookhaven. I know Assemblyman Engelbright's office has been hugely involved with that. The Historical Society, and Rich is also carrying that ball. We did have some complaints that, of course, in the cold season, empty property, got to watch the doors and the boarding stays in place. So yes, if you see something, please contact us. We'll have code get up there immediately and take care of the situation. Thanks, Kath. I just wanted to expand on that a little.
Yeah, and as far as the property on Sheep Pasture, whatever it is that they plan to do with it, and there's talk about making it into a museum or something to that effect, we just need to make sure that it continues to be secure and or manned fully,
Right.
so it doesn't, nobody enters a property unwelcomed. Okay, parking. Meters will be turned back on as of April 1st. That was decided by the parking committee recently, and I am in agreement with that. I think that's a good time when the season starts to pick up. We like to see turnover of the parking spaces to help the businesses and keep people flowing through and in and out in a nice way. The parking.
Is that it'll be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Yes.
So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday still
Yes.
open. Still, okay, that's good news.
That's my
Okay.
understanding, yes. And our parking administrator has asked me, I don't have a lot of information on it, but he asked me to report that he has been researching a new cloud and handheld technology for better data between the parking enforcement and code. So I don't have a lot of new information. Rich, you're nodding, and I know you've been involved in that. I don't know a lot about it, but I hopefully will have more to report at our next meeting. Do you have something
Yes.
on that, Margot?
No. I think Kevin introduced us to this new technology. It looked fantastic. I think it's a step towards, in the right direction. It bridges, code enforcement, the court systems, and the building and planning department. So it's all good.
Yeah, if that technology is out there, it's definitely worth looking into. And then the other thing that I was asked to report on that I don't have a ton of information and we're just in initial talks is something called a bike share program through Suffolk County. It's called PDAL or pedal share. In the thinking is now that Uptown is being, on the cusp of being developed and more people being uptown, what's the best way to help them to get downtown, to frequent the businesses and the restaurants, and to move about the village. So we are in the process of getting more information on this program through Suffolk County. So that's interesting and kind of fun. And we touched briefly on the school, that they're back in session. My kids came in as the meeting was started, so I haven't heard how that went. I understand a lot of new precautions are taking place because of the distancing, and the screens went up on the plexiglass on the desk. So I'm interested to hear how that went for our middle school and high school. Elementary school remains in-person full-time, and for us full-time is 4 days a week. Monday is still an asynchronous day, a quote-unquote makeup day for the kids, and a deep cleaning day for the schools. Prom committee continues to meet with the hopes that there will be a prom, and they are in discussions with the country club for their golf outing fundraiser. There are other fundraisers going on right now, one of them being a football pool. And there's always fun things that are coming up. Those are on their Facebook page and on their website. So if there's anything that you'd want to get involved in and help out the prom committee, that would be great. And that concludes my report for today.
Good. Thanks, Kathy Ann. A lot of work ongoing, I know. Trustee Cassay, Rebecca.
Thank you. Okay, so we've already covered the waste removal, waste carting in Port Jeff Village. We're going to go ahead and scoot along to the Community Garden Committee. We had our first meeting. We are 10 members strong, and most of 8 of those members attended the first meeting. It was a virtual meeting. It was a great discussion, including goals of the members and what had them joining this committee in the first place. There was a lot of discussion about how the garden will help families who are experiencing food insecurity, and how fresh grown food by oneself boosts nutrition and the programming around that. So those are some of the main goals that many committee members shared in that discussion. We started to discuss locations for the garden. There are two main locations in discussion right now. One being the Highlands Parkland property uptown, and then there was another suggestion made. There's a piece of parkland down on Beach Street near the intersection of Sheldrake, and so that is another one. We have a site visit plan for the Beach Street location this Thursday morning at 8 a.m. For whichever committee members can go down and look at it then. And then our next visit is this Sunday, the 24th at 11 a.m. is to go visit the Riverhead River and Roots Community Garden, which is tucked right in the center of bustling Riverhead village town, which was a big part of their revitalization as well. So we're going to go see that garden in its winter state, and we will enjoy a tour from the founders and folks who run that garden. It's been there for 9 years. So glean knowledge from them, experience, ask lots of questions, and continue there. And we're going to meet twice monthly. So very, very excited to have kicked that off and see where it goes. And of course, it'll be kept up to date. As far as the recycling sculpture goes, I've continue to meet with the grant coordinator for the village, developing programming that's inclusive of the Port Jefferson High School Environmental Club, as far as monitoring, what would be going in the sculptures, developing signage, and seeing if we can sort of get the percentage of correctly recycled plastics up over the course of a certain amount of time. So that's the programming we're working on with our youth here in Port Jefferson for the greater good of everyone here, with an aim to of educating people more too about what's not recyclable, because I think a lot of folks don't realize just how many plastics are not recyclable, and looking at alternatives to single-use non-recyclable plastics. So we're hoping to submit a grant application in the spring and continue to look at potential other grants for those sculptures. Next item is short-term Airbnb type rentals in Port Jeff Village. This is something that the mayor had asked me to look into late last year. Myself being a bed and breakfast owner here in the village for over 6 years, I was very familiar with this code, and so happy to start to do some research. The code does not specifically address this type of rental where it is a short-term, sometimes owner occupied, sometimes not owner occupied. So if the whole house is being rented out for a short amount of time, so it's not a rental where somebody's renting for the year or even 6 months. And then even if it is owner occupied, that's, whatever it is under our code, it would, if it could qualify under our code, you need to get a permit from the village. And then some, looking at those pieces of the code, you might not qualify depending on if you are occupying it, if you're not, how long are you renting out? And so we've had some residents come forward with concerns about these types of rentals in their neighborhoods. So I'm starting to look into that. I've been told that the most helpful thing to do at this point is to talk to my fellow board members and see what their perspectives are as far as looking at the code, and how we want to move forward with allowing and permitting or not permitting these types of rentals in Port Jeff Village. I personally will make no recommendation, and I would like to be recused from any vote for any changes regarding this code, because I personally feel I have a conflict of interest. Being a bed and breakfast owner in the village myself, I do not want to be creating code and voting for something that gets rid of my competition. It feels really nasty to do.
Well, I think actually, your input is valued because you would maybe understand the business from a different perspective. So, I would not prevent you from recusing yourself if that's how you feel. But I had sent our director of building and planning to a seminar on Airbnb and how it's impacting communities, I guess almost a year ago. And I was hoping to, see how, how this village would look at that, because if it is happening in our
Yes.
neighborhoods, and we need, this is a reason why we need to look at it, understand it, see if there's ways of putting something together that makes sense to protect our community, and also to do something that kind of makes sense because that's where the market trend is going, right? So
absolutely, and I think that's the conversation that I briefly had with with Allison Lapointe up at Building and Planning, and we talked about there will likely be code changes needed, and so instead of writing various types of code to give the board a selection to say, okay, well, this code would say no, they're not allowed. This code would say they're kind of allowed, and this one would say yes, it's pretty free range. Having a discussion amongst board members to understand what kind of code is desirable to be written will cut their work, by in half.
Okay.
Third. So we're looking to have that discussion, over the coming short term, so that I can report back to Building and Planning, and of course at the with our village attorney Brian Egan's input with all this, to give this some direction and start to address, continue to address this as a village. I'm happy to use my personal input. I think the way that the code's written for the bed and breakfast is great. Of course, would I love to not have any restrictions as a business owner? Yes, but the way that government works is that it's ideally meant to balance the needs of individual businesses and also protect people who are visiting those businesses. And so for me, I see the huge value in the way that the code is written, and it protects my guests by making sure the inspector comes here and sees that we have the proper CO detectors, fire alarms, access, things like this, that we keep records for safety. So all of this is so important for not just me as a registered business, but I think anybody who is hosting folks, whether they're conscious of it or not, you have to be hosting safely.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My brain, working with code enforcement, immediately goes to enforcement. It may be a little premature to discuss, but just to give me an idea, I'm not familiar. I've never used an Airbnb service or anything, but as far as enforcement, once a code is in place specifically addressing that type of rental, other than a neighbor saying, hey, I think that my neighbor has this short-term rental, how do you find where these are? If I were to search, the Port Jeff area, because I'm looking to stay there, I understand that they don't give you an address, and they don't often give you pictures of the outside of the house. You get some room pictures.
I think if you go, Kath, go
Yeah.
search Airbnb. They give you, not only do they give you addresses because they're geocoded, it takes you right to the house. They got outside, inside, so anybody looking, if Rich were to go onto, the website and search that, he'd be able to find probably houses that are registered for Airbnb here.
Sometimes they don't have addresses right away unless you book them. And sometimes the geocoding is vague. So they'll say it's in this general area. So I know, when we pop up, ours are sort of because we have 4 different rooms available. It's a little cluster on there. And so I don't, but often they'll have pictures of the outside of the house, but I'm happy to have that enforcement question with you, or conversation with you about that question, because it's a good one. That's part of this discussion. But, I just wanted to have this as an agenda item today to start the conversation, continue the conversation with you all, and then, let the public know that this is something that we are looking into.
Thank you.
All right, Brian, any activity down at Patchogue about this topic?
So I always kind of take the Occam's razor approach to Airbnb. Occam's razor, the simplest solution is always the best. And, it's hard to imagine that the village of Port Jefferson survived without even a rental permit law until 2013, right? And it's amazing that it took to 2013 for us to get a rental permit law. That was only a matter of time until we have to start to regulate Airbnb. But I think the framework for the discussion, and if you Google the topic of municipalities regulating Airbnb, including a massive class action against the city of New York, I mean, massive. I bet the company class action. It's hotly debated everywhere because the people who don't like it, come out very hot, and the people who are making supplemental income on it come out very hot as well. So it's a very hot topic. But the way I look at it is, and I'm happy to have these further conversations with Trustee Casay and then Allison and Mayor looping you into these once we get kind of a framework. But I think if we work within our existing rental permit law, Chapter 205, rental property law, and it doesn't, by the way, apply to any length of time. So technically, it says if you rent for a day, you should get a rental permit. So I think that's really, one, the framework for the discussion. Two, what's the purpose of a rental permit? The rental permit is when neighbors complain about what a property looks like because it's being abused, either by parking, by garbage, by over occupancy, by multiple entrances, all those kind of concerns. So if we get those aesthetic concerns, maybe we put some of those in, that the property can't look like anything beyond a single family residence. And it has to be subject to inspections as it's required under the rental permit. Those kind of things, if we frame our discussion in the rental permit law, I think we'll be able to have something productive as opposed to something destructive that all these other municipalities have experienced on Airbnb.
Brian, how does zoning play into that though?
So, like the rental permit, the property can be in any zone. So if you have a residence, it could be anywhere. So it could be in any residence. And I think, that's the concern. If you've got an Airbnb next to you, and think about and Trustee Casay makes an excellent point. Think about the rigorous analysis we do on appropriateness for bed and breakfasts in their operations. And yet in an A residence, you'll allow an Airbnb to go on with multiple cars coming, without any kind of a log book, without all the details that a bed and breakfast would keep, but without potentially adequate garbage, without parking. I always come back to parking, but parking and shielding the cars and entrances and those kind of things. I would say, again, I think the rental permit provides the rental permit section, Chapter 205, provides a very good framework for this discussion. And I think with other, property protections for shorter term rentals to shield the neighbors from your next door neighbor making money off their property.
So clearly there's a very big distinction between renting your entire property out as an Airbnb versus renting a section of your property out as Airbnb. And I've heard complaints that there are people who do both.
Yep.
Sure. And I think under I would think that the part of your property section would be under the bed and breakfast code, because that's owner occupied, probably short term on the, so I don't see why then they couldn't just use that portion of the code to become compliant. Again, we're not, from my personal perspective, I think that if regulated, these, there's nothing, especially in light of the pandemic, but even in normal times.
But I'm sorry to interrupt you. Our B&B code requires you to serve breakfast, correct?
Correct. Well, there are a lot of requirements for bed and breakfast that are in it. We have a very detailed bed and breakfast code, which, by the way, is excellent. Patchogue based its bed and breakfast code on Port Jefferson's, which has had a very long, history of bed and breakfast.
So the point is there is the bed and breakfast. There's a hospitality component to it. It's just not like you're turning over the keys. You don't even see the person, and they just, what I'm saying. So I think there's ways that the bed and breakfast code are drafted, which are, it's perfect for bed and breakfast, but it doesn't necessarily just emulate, saying, oh, okay, because I'm going to rent one of my rooms out and become an Airbnb, that I should just apply for bed and breakfast. I think we have to look at this carefully because it's, it's in the, we have a lot of people whose income is suffering and they are looking at either they're empty nesters or whatever, but they're, technically speaking, I cannot prohibit them from having a guest in their house, right?
Right. Correct. And that becomes part of the issue, and then you've got broader legal definitional questions that we've got to conquer, such as accessory apartments, which are not permitted. You can't have a second accessory apartment. That's illegal. Is it now a two-family house? Is it a single room occupancy, meaning an SRO?
Let's do this. Because this is a great topic, and I think it's something that we haven't grappled in our code. That it's happening in certain neighborhoods, we know. So I'd like to, continue to work. And as Brian said, like when we have a little bit of a framework, we should schedule a work session around this and some other things that we need to kind of, grapple down. We have an outdoor dining situation that we really want to get a jump start on for the spring. A lot of ideas kicking around. I want to land that because I want to be able to go to our outdoor dining restaurants and have them make their applications, as early as possible, so that in the first breath of spring, these guys can be back up and trying to recuperate a lot of the lost revenue over these last several months at 50% or 25% occupancy or whatever they can get these days. But I don't want to chew too much more time up of this board meeting. Rebecca,
absolutely.
Are you good? Are you
done?
No.
I have just one more, my planning board update. Yep. But thank you for that discussion, everyone. And so the big planning board update is with 1 North Country Road, which is the previous Lobster House location, and a couple of adjacent lots there. That has an application that has come in for a 3-story mixed-use building. It would have 1,300 square feet of rental office space and 40 apartments, 35 1-bedrooms and 5 2-bedrooms. This is, there are no renderings available yet, but the big discussion that we had with the introduction of the project was, if you're familiar with the property, it slopes. So if you're imagine driving up the hill on Main Street, going south and uphill on Main Street, and that property is sort of awkward in that way. So at the light, you're kind of if the light is here and you have this angle here, they're looking at how the stories of the building are going to play out vis-a-vis, the basement and the apartments. And so the planning board and I'm sure the planning department and the applicant are all looking together to see, to work through these technicalities of the code. But that is the project that is new to the table there.
Rebecca, it's my understanding, because it is north of North Country, that would be the Port Jefferson Village School District, correct?
That is correct to my understanding, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure Mr. Gito can give you the numbers on all his other apartments as to how many children reside in these apartments, as people always, ask when these buildings are built.
It's a good question. Sorry, go on, Mayor.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just looking at the numbers at a blush of, it's of the 40 apartments, 35 being 1-bedrooms. I'm wondering if the project is less aiming at families.
Yeah. We know families will move in and stay for a little while as they grow into their community, whatever. But a lot of times the children are less than school age at that point in time, as we have experienced. However, the interesting thing, this is all conceptual. I know that the plans that they submitted are solid plans, but they're not detailed plans. And the interesting component of this project is it's kind of like the massing of the building moved westerly, because I guess they want it to be within the sewer district.
Yes.
Instead of having the massing of the building be, it's not originally what was contemplated. So I think that the planning board is raising good questions. And I did watch the meeting and I was impressed once again with our planning board.
They're great. They're wonderful. If anyone from the planning board is watching, thank you all. I always enjoy those meetings. And
staff, I should say, because after participating in these conifer meetings, I have a new appreciation for the planning staff. Okay, so Rebecca, great report.
Thank you.
And did the zoning board meet this month, Rebecca? Kathy Ann?
No, it's coming up.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, because they meet later in the month, right? Is it the 3rd or 4th week? Is it this week?
It is, I believe it is this week. It is,
yeah, I know. I'm not sure if there's anything.
28th.
21st.
28th.
And Rebecca, the next time you report to us, can you check on the status of the building permit for the ferry building?
Will do. Nothing has come up. Nothing came up at the last meeting, but I'll check on the status.
Well, I know they got through. I got their site plan approval, so they're probably past, the planning process. I don't know where they are with their permit.
Will do. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Because people are asking me, I don't know. Brian Egan.
No further report, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No follow-up to the life of tax certiorari issue.
We're going to be scheduling a meeting with the Brookhaven Town Tax Assessor and Life as lead counsel, hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Joe, Administrator Palumbo.
Just a few things I have to report tonight. We finally received our executed agreement with NYSID and the town of Brookhaven for the imaging or scanning of our building department records. We're just waiting for a PO to be generated on our side. We'll send that over to the vendor who is responsible for doing the scanning, and we'll coordinate the scheduling for that project. This is a project that is going to basically digitize all of our building department records. It's going to create the ability for all building department staff and the extension thereof to view these records electronically in connection with our new admin software for our building department is going to create a very efficient and more technological way of reviewing and processing building departments and reviewing their records. So we look forward to that project. The LED light conversion project is ongoing. Wellsback, who is the awarded vendor to do the conversion of the light fixtures in the village, has started this week on what they call the decorative fixtures within the village. So it will be the Dickens fixtures as well as the fixtures that exist throughout all the residential communities. We are posting the list of streets that each week where the conversion will begin. Those will be posted on the website as well as on Facebook. Longfellow Drainage, we had a construction kickoff meeting with our engineer Grosser, as well as DF Stone, who is the contractor that will be performing this work. We spoke about project scheduling, notifying affected residents, among other things. The project start date is probably the week of the 25th of this month. So it's not next week, but the following week. We are going out on Thursday morning to meet with the resident. I believe the address is 115 Longfellow. She is the most affected by this project. So myself, Allison Lapointe, and Jeremy from DF Stone will be meeting with her to explain to her the extent of work that will be going on her property, as well as the project. And we plan on getting letters out to other affected property owners in the very near future. That's all I have for tonight.
Thanks, Joe. So on the digitization contract with the town, what do you see as the timeline?
To get started or
Yeah.
to finish?
Let's just
It's been
get started.
so
Let's
long. I'd have to go back and look to see how long they intend to scan these documents. But as I recall, it didn't seem as though it was going to take very long for them to do. But we do want to make sure that we do not remove too many of our building department records where now we're in a situation where we don't have them available for us to review in the event that we have to. So I think we're doing, a file cabinet at a time. They'll be coming in, removing them, scanning these documents. The scanners that these companies use are, very big and very quick. So the actual image or scanning should not take too much time once they have the records in hand and return them to us. So in terms of a time frame, I don't know exactly how long it's going to take. Once we get the PO generated on our side, Denise, and we get that over to them, we can schedule the first pickup. And I'm assuming that's going to be in the next week or two.
It's actually was done today.
Okay, so, well, I'm talking about week or two for them to come and pick up the documents. Not you, Denise.
No, the purchase order is done. That's what I meant.
Right.
Good. Thanks, guys. Great work. I know it took a lot of preparation on our side, and we were, ready, but it's good to see that they've caught up to us at this point in time. Thank you, Joe. Great report. Denise, treasurer.
No, nothing else to report. Just the tax sale and starting the budget process. It came up fast. So that's really
Okay.
all.
Okay. And Clerk Sakovich, Barb.
The only thing is the resident parking sticker portal is working wonderfully. Residents, it's quick turnaround. We've had a lot of residents upload their requests, so which is minimizing the crowds here at Village Hall. The only other thing is tomorrow I need for the tax sale for Denise, I need their certificate signed by all of the trustees as well as the mayor. So if everyone could stop in tomorrow, I'll be here all day to sign it. And the next meeting is February 1st, back to a Monday, 7 p.m. Thank you.
First of the month. Great. Okay. So we're going to go into exec session this evening. We're going to talk about an employee matter that is potential litigation and another employee matter concerning our budget. So I make a motion at 5:02 to go into exec session. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And Lorraine, we will not forget to make motions coming out, I promise.
Who seconded that motion?
I did.
Okay, thank
Rebecca
you.
Cassay.
Okay, got it. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, Lorraine.
Hi, thank you.
And that ends our YouTube experience. Thanks, Kevin. Take us down off of YouTube.
Okay, stand by.
And Kevin, are you handing the meeting over to me?
Already done.
Woo, look at that.
Hi, Kev.
Seamless.
Nice.
Stand by though for the YouTube.
Where is, am I missing somebody?
Mayor, you have to
No.
do that since I handed the meeting over to you. Please look at the top left where it says YouTube and stop streaming.